You're entering a no judgment zone. The following show is real and raw, and everyone is encouraged to speak their mind. This is the Immigrant Experience, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of newcomer immigrants and Canada at large. An open platform, one that welcomes everybody. This is the Immigrant Experience. And now your hosts, Emmanuel and Ruben.
Hello and welcome to the Immigrant Experience podcast. This is another day, another episode, and this is your host, Ruben.
And along it's Emmanuel. Do I like for call?
Yes, thanks, man. And of course, today's episode is an extension of last week's episode with one and only Mr. Alek.
Yes.
This guy is burning the house. Yeah, man. Thanks so much for accepting to talk to us again, and welcome to the Immigrant Experience podcast.
For sure. Thank you guys very much for having me, and I'm excited to see where our discussion goes today.
Yeah, welcome, Alek.
And so last week we had a deep conversation on your immigrant experience in the country, and of course you coming as a little boy, and we understand right now you're doing a lot of humanitarian projects in Canada and out of the country, and that's what that's what we'll be discussing this week. And do you mind maybe telling us what these humanitarian projects are?
For sure. So it's something I definitely started in 2017. It was an idea that was always on my mind, and I think the message at the time, or I guess the way I saw it, was people are touched by kindness, but they're moved by results. So everybody's going to say, wow, that's great, really kind, but it's the results that matter.
Yeah.
And that was the driver behind everything. And, there was those projects that you mentioned, like Colombia, Dominican Republic, and even some stuff here in Ottawa with Syrian youth that, lived through the war experience before arriving.
Yeah.
So those are definitely things we can chat a bit about.
That's amazing, man. Maybe first thing first, can you maybe pass us through what you did in Colombia and Dominican, I think?
Yeah. Before we even go to that, I would like to know what actually got you interested in all this humanitarian work. What was your drive starting to motivate you to do this?
For sure. The best way to explain that or describe it is a sports analogy. Some of the best sports stars, they say that we see them as the best.
Yeah.
But they always say that they knew someone who was better than them in their neighborhood, in their area, and they just never got that chance to break through. And I think the idea for me is everybody has potential, and it's important about realizing and making the most out of that potential. For us, coming to Canada was a game changer.
Yeah.
It changed my life trajectory forever. And with certain privileges and opportunities, I felt that it was important to make the most out of it and provide some sort of opportunity or an extension of that to others as well.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's really amazing.
That's amazing. And how long have you been doing this project?
So since 2017.
Oh, wow.
There were different projects. The key idea is make an impact in the community when I was going overseas and get a better understanding of that community. Because those communities are generally closed off and it's hard to go into them because they're dangerous because of all these reasons. And the projects were a success, but furthermore, the idea behind it was I was also collecting research for various reasons.
Yeah.
And it really emphasizes the opportunity we have growing up here in a stable place compared to some of those other countries.
Yeah.
What life is like, for sure.
Wow. And maybe first thing first, Colombia. What are you doing over there, and what project took you there?
For sure. So Colombia is known for trouble. I was being a good guy. In Colombia, I had the opportunity to participate in work with elderly women with mental and physical disabilities. And the shelter that I worked at was run by nuns. And the term that they use for these women is abuelitas. Essentially, it's like grannies, grandma in Spanish.
Yeah.
However, if you look at the bigger picture, the reason they're taking care of these grandmas is because Colombia, unfortunately, is a very classist society. Mm-hmm. What that means is if people can't take care of their families, they usually abandon elderly people because they have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And depending on where you fall in that class system, it can make it very difficult for you to access health resources.
Mm-hmm.
So those elderly women were in those shelters for that reason. It was really unique in the sense that outside of that shelter, everybody saw them because they had mental and physical disabilities as soulless bodies, just meat and bones.
Wow.
That's how they were essentially treated outside of
the shelter.
Outside of the shelter, yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting. So what actually motivated you to start going to Colombia? Like, what was what pushed you towards that?
For sure. So the interesting thing about Colombia is we've all heard stories and all that sort of jazz, but I wanted to experience South America. Mm-hmm. And the more I read about it, I realized that we don't always get that picture of what life is really like. Mm-hmm. And going there, the really cool thing about being in that shelter mm-hmm. was I got to experience people sometimes they don't get that experience.
Yeah.
One of the cool things that we did with those elderly women was painting nails. Mm-hmm. And I ended up painting some of their nails. At first they were hesitant, but after a while they all lined up. And I was like, what's his name? Not Da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci?
Yeah.
That's the painter, yeah? Yeah, I was like Leonardo da Vinci. Everybody was wanting to paint their nails, so it was good.
Wow. That's amazing. Man.
Yeah.
And maybe before getting to do the nails, how did you even connect with these seniors, with these
For sure.
elderly people?
Yeah,
and
there was a...
Did you go with like an organization?
Yeah, so I participated with an organization and they were able to sort of leverage their resources to serve as an introduction. And I think that experience, painting the nails of elderly women with mental and physical disabilities, that was a real eye-opener. And I always use the example. There's an episode on Oprah, and it's an interview with 50 Cent.
Yeah.
And 50 Cent also painted nails of his grandma.
Oh, wow.
So what I usually say is I painted the nails of grandmas too.
Yeah.
So the example or what we can take away is real gangsters paint grandma nails. So that's my takeaway.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. What was the experience like for you being there amongst people, learning from their vulnerable nature, and what did you take from being in this place with all these people?
So another unique opportunity that presented itself was participating at an orphanage for children.
Yeah, still in Colombia.
Still in Colombia.
Yeah.
They're from 6 to 14 years old, and they're taken from some of the most extreme environments you can imagine.
Yeah.
So that's drugs, violence, and weapon violence, gun violence. You think it, they're through it.
Yeah.
But what the coolest thing about it is when you take them out of those extreme environments and you put structure in their day, they experience success like you would never imagine.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man.
So, but that's a positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once they turn 14 and 15, they have to go back. They're no longer eligible to stay in that orphanage, and they have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So what that means is they're going back to the environment that they were taken out of.
Yeah,
and the cycle
continues. The cycle continues. Oh wow, that's incredible.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
And how long were you helping us the senior and the orphanage kids?
For sure. So those were for periods of a week.
Okay.
Those were for periods of a week. I also got to experience another community in Colombia.
Okay.
And the shocking thing about it was how substance abuse was open. You had people taking hard drugs on the streets in the open.
Yeah.
And it's something that you don't really think of or it's hard to imagine.
Yeah, they say Colombia is ranked among gangs and drug.
Yeah, drugs.
That's where
they're famous for drugs.
Kingpins come from, right? Yeah. And do you think what's the culture with elderly people and people, vulnerable people?
For sure. So it's it's complicated because a lot of times people are seen as undesirable or worthless.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something that really blows my mind because I think that there's meaning to everybody's life. The fact that people are worthless or undesirable, that's just not something I agree with, right? But it's a challenge. You can definitely go to Colombia and you can have a good time, a safe time, but there is the risk of potentially getting caught up in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's one experience that you can share that you took from your work with the community in Colombia?
So it's a really cool one too. The orphanage, think of it as extreme poverty, like maximum extreme poverty with limited access to internet, right? And the way me and the youth connected was over a pair of Jordan shoes. I wore a pair of neon colored Jordan shoes, and those kids saw it and they pointed it out.
Wow.
How crazy is that? Yeah.
That's
what Jordan is.
Yeah, that's great. That's crazy.
Well, I believe they know what Jordan is because that's why they resort turning back to the street because they want these fancy things they see people putting on. And if you'd come to the conclusion that, if I just got some money from selling drugs or doing this, then I can afford this too.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that makes you vulnerable.
Drugs, human trafficking, those are things Colombia is known for.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dominican Republic. It's a hub for human trafficking and a hub for drug trafficking as well.
Yeah. And how much did you get to experience this while you were there?
So in terms of the next project, which is in Dominican Republic, that was the baseball initiative. So we went to 4 different rural communities in the Dominican Republic. But when we were traveling to those communities, because they're remote, we did it with national police and municipal police.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is Dominican Republic is simply just not a safe place.
Yeah.
When people go to Punta Cana and they get to their resort, I don't think they think, why are there 2 or 3 meter high walls? Why do people need security with big guns?
Yeah, why do you always need someone to escort you everywhere you're going to?
Exactly. And that's a reality.
Yeah.
That people aren't privy to, that they don't see, right?
Wow. And how did you go to Dominican Republic?
Sure. So yeah, the cool thing about it was getting access to these communities is very difficult. One of the things that I was advised was in the evening, don't go out, don't go traveling. Because they tell you people will block your car in the middle of the road with a motorcycle, get in front of your car or with another car, and then they'll take out guns and they'll kidnap you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Plant attack.
So you need to be very cautious, and thankfully that didn't happen.
Wow.
When I was with municipal and national police officers there, that were with part of the
security
project.
Yeah,
they were armed with guns, but luckily we didn't have to
use it. Yeah, that's amazing.
So all the time you were in Dominican Republic, you had to be like accompanied by the police, municipal police with guns and stuff.
So it would be only during the projects.
Only
during the projects. Because you're going to communities that are sometimes half an hour, 40 minutes away to drive.
Wow.
And getting into those communities, it also changes the way you see the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Because the environments that those kids live in, same thing with Colombia. Those are some of the worst environments imaginable.
Yeah.
Where they don't have a future.
Yeah. You talk about the project. And you talked about part of the project, like you talked about the nails painting for senior ladies.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, and I find that very connecting to get to know someone personally. But I would also like to know what other activities was this project like? What was the main goal and some other activities which was involved in this project?
Sure. So the key takeaways, and one of them starts with in Colombia, is when you provide children with structure, it doesn't matter what kind of environments they come from.
Yeah.
They can experience success.
Yeah.
And that's something that translates to newcomers.
Yeah.
When youth come to Canada, and whatever kind of circumstances, environment, conditions they came under, when they come to Canada, when we provide them with structure, they can experience success. It doesn't matter where they're from.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that was a key takeaway. And then the other one was, these kids, what they have, so their tomorrow is not promised, and what they have today is
Not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed, and it's far from good.
Wow.
So it just changes your perspective and then the way you see things.
Yeah, man. And trust me, like, let's say traveling is learning, right?
Right.
And working on those projects, I believe it pretty much gave you a knowledge that you could not otherwise get it from here.
Absolutely.
And what's their care for seniors there, man?
In the Dominican Republic, I didn't have a chance to explore seniors and elderly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was more so focused on youth.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, so boys, the reality for boys is they're going to be groomed into a life of gun violence, weapon violence, drug trafficking, and a life of crime. For young girls, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
It might even be a little bit worse, because while they're still children, they'll get human trafficked
Yeah.
and forced into the sex trade. And the same is true in Colombia, because they actually have zero protections for children.
Yeah.
There's zero child welfare services.
Wow.
It's one of those things that it's a head scratcher. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And like most countries, especially developing countries, governments are still stretching on other expenses and stuff and paying debt.
I think mostly political instability and like you see that happening in Venezuela too, where they had an economy that was actually thriving, but due to political instability and mismanagement of resources, you have countries like Colombia, Venezuela, and lots of others on this list in these areas that are struggling due to, not because they do not have resources, but the resources are just really mismanaged. Yeah, for selfish interests.
And so, what activities were you doing in Colombia, Dominican Republic?
For sure. Well, it even transitions to the Syrian youth movement.
Oh,
because
interesting.
As we're talking about these situations, structure.
Yeah.
That's the big key thing here, right? With structure, when the Syrian youth came to Ottawa, these are children that have experienced the war experience, that remember the war experience.
Yeah.
Because they're just that age. We took them on a VIP experience to a Fury game. And when they returned back to school, their teachers, they told us that the impact that had on them was significant. And it also helped bridge them with the other students.
Oh, wow.
Where language was becoming less of a barrier.
Yeah.
The cool thing about that project was the teachers picked the kids, and they picked the kids based on effort, not performance. So whoever was trying, they were chosen. Because at the end of the day, the most important thing is effort.
Yeah.
You talked about the Syrian youths working with them coming in. Yeah, I am very much aware of that trend when the Syrian crisis erupted and they had to bring in lots of the community here in Canada. How did you get involved with this project as well? And do you have do you speak Syrian?
No.
Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, I would like to know, I'm kind of curious, how did you get involved with this?
For sure. So I reached out to one of my friends in the community who also takes part in projects, initiatives, and he's involved with various groups. And it was his idea that we could probably organize something for this group of kids. The cool thing about it was there was a school near me that was designated as essentially a hub for these students, where they would be going to school. And the reason schools make those decisions is because that's where they have the resources to sort of provide that education. Having multilingual teachers, right? Someone that can speak Arabic so that they can understand, while also getting that training in English as well. So it was a joint idea, joint project, but the really big takeaway I had there, and it really connects, it all goes together, is providing youth a sense of belonging and socializing them into norms after traumatic experiences. That's key.
Oh, yeah.
And many of these children are not lucky enough, like I said, they're not lucky enough to not remember the war experience. But they're malleable enough that if you can socialize them, reintroduce them, that's not going to hold them back from experiencing success.
Oh, yeah.
So, a key part of what I'm taking from what he's saying there is these social activities can help kill this trauma or reduce the stress level and all the other barriers which these youths are struggling with personally.
Right.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
And I think what I resonate with, it's trying to break that trauma, intergenerational trauma, with the youth and the experience with war and traumatic experiences. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
And how long did you were you involved with Newcomer from Syria?
For sure. So when we did that project, it was actually very short planned.
Oh.
And we managed to make it happen because we got in there and we reached out to people directly.
Okay.
The key takeaway with that is, having more time is always great, but sometimes you just don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So the duration of that event, it was a day or two, but the impact of that event that only took place for 1 day, 2 days, it stretches beyond. And it's really remarkable because sometimes these children, the circumstances that they come from, you would think that that's going to hold them back, but it really doesn't.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to the theme of immigrants, and regardless of their age, they're always determined and willing to push, regardless of the limits.
Yeah, I think usually when you have youths that come from less privileged backgrounds, they have that tendency to strive when given an opportunity compared to youths that or kids that grew up with privilege.
Absolutely.
They usually do way better and they know where they're coming from. So they usually know that you have to put in a lot of extra effort and hard work if you want to be recognized.
Yeah, man. And does maybe your involvement with the Syrian youth and your international experience in the Dominican Republic and Colombia pretty much led you to DocConnect? Can you tell us maybe a little bit more about this project?
Absolutely. So all of those events, essentially, they make an impact in the community, and that impact is probably not gonna change their life forever. But it gives them something to look back on positively. But at the same time, I was gathering information, gathering research, understanding how things work. With DocConnect, what I was able to understand, and that's from research and statistics, is there are certain demographics in Canada, more so than others, that don't have access to a consistent healthcare experience. They don't have a designated family doctor. And that's something that the Canada Health unique about those two demographics is adolescents. In today's Canada, the two commonalities that they have are they tend to live in low-income communities and they tend to be members of racialized groups. And if we think about it, adolescents already face many barriers. And the only way they'll experience success is through education. But if we can't provide them with consistent healthcare experience, because of systemic barriers, success for these children is going to be difficult. And maybe run us through how do people use DocConnect and how is it bridging the gaps that exist in the healthcare system now? Sure. So DocConnect essentially is a health tech platform that pairs Canadian adolescents at the high school level.
Oh, wow.
It's used by guidance counselors, and the key cool thing about it is that it's 2 clicks and it takes less than a minute to change someone's life.
Wow.
So you enter, you type in your postal code and you click search. And in less than a minute, somebody that doesn't have a consistent experience, that can change. And do they maybe have a follow-up? For example, one of the issue accessing consistent healthcare, it's like the issue of paperwork and getting to fill the forms. And how do you mitigate this? For sure. So there is the opportunity for them to print the forms before they go to the clinic and apply. And that just makes it easier for children whose families might not be healthcare literate or might not be familiar with. Just one of those things that helps bridge the gap.
Yeah, man. That's amazing. Man. That's amazing.
What DocConnect, is it basically your idea which you created from like an app?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I think it all starts with the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
They went on record and they stated that the biggest threat to youth today has to do with their well-being and their mental health. And if we look a little bit deeper into statistics, we find out that one of the biggest challenges youth face today is substance abuse and self-medication.
Yeah.
And those two contribute negatively to well-being and overall mental health.
Yeah. And do you think maybe people are having like different doctors? You don't have a family doctor, so you keep on going to different doctors. Do you think that like pretty much impacts people's health?
Absolutely, because it's an inconsistent experience.
And
having someone share or repeat traumatic stories, traumatic experiences, that's very difficult.
Okay.
Having someone who knows you, that you're familiar with, having a doctor that they know who you are, what you are about, and what you've been through, it simplifies the whole process that much more. The reason I chose schools is because guidance counselors are the main users of this tool. But going through the school, that's the most systematic way of reaching the most amount of young people. And these schools are in a position to promote, a broad spectrum of health-related ideas and policies. And the cool thing about that is that's what the tool is about. It's a tool for guidance counselors to make the most of their interaction with those students in the shortest amount of time possible.
Wow. And to people who are not in school then, how can they access the resource?
For sure. So there are ways to access the resource. At this time, it's specifically for guidance counselors, but that's not holding anybody back from reaching out, and we can definitely put them in touch.
Okay. So with DocConnect, is there a possibility of Googling it online and searching for a doctor? Like personally, can I go online and look up for, let's say I don't have a family doctor and I'm concerned about finding one in my area. Can I just go online, search DocConnect and find a doctor to...
Certainly. So the interesting thing about it before I got to the idea of DocConnect, if you wanted to look up a doctor online, you go to Google, you type in doctors in Ottawa. But the interesting thing about it is you're provided with doctors across all Ottawa.
Oh, true.
It was very difficult to pinpoint where you were and to identify that proximity, how far they were.
So what's the difference now with DocConnect?
For sure. So we specifically focus on identifying doctors that are the closest to you that would be able to accept you.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So you actually get to identify all the doctors in your area.
Yes.
And select.
Exactly.
Wow.
So how would you even know you're picking the right doctor for yourself?
For sure. So one of the big issues in Ontario when it comes to getting access to a family doctor is there's long waits. Multi-years.
Yes, there's long waits.
But, and this is a big but, sometimes doctors can make exceptions. Sometimes doctors will put that their clinic is accepting new patients. But that's really a hit and miss. There's no guarantee. So instead of you looking around on Google, spending who knows how much time, you're able to realize that if I start and you go systematically from the closest to the furthest, you're going to have a chance of getting that service.
Wow. Emmanuel, do you have a family doctor?
Well, at the moment, I have nothing precisely for a family doctor as an immigrant, which I am. But I think over time, you get to find one for yourself that you think is best suitable for you. Usually.
Because I was very concerned of your health, man.
Do you have a family doctor?
I have one.
Oh, interesting. How long ago was that?
Ever since I came to Canada.
So you've had a family doctor since you came? That's very good news. Very interesting. Good for you.
That's amazing, man. And maybe connecting the health statistics with even within across Canada.
Sure.
Do you think those were like the main push to you starting these?
Without a doubt. I mean, having access to health supports can be the difference between identifying underlying causes that are preventing a lifetime of negative health.
Wow.
And that goes back to self-medication. If we look at some of the statistics, and they're really mind-blowing. In 2019, more than 40% of Canadian adolescents aged 13 to 18 engaged in alcohol use and other substances. Now, this is concerning because since the pandemic started, substance use, so the frequency of which it's used, has increased.
Yes.
50% of adolescents reported solitary use.
Wow.
Using substances on their own.
Yeah.
33% used substances with peers over technology. So let's say FaceTime, Snapchat, all these other sort of social media platforms. And I mean, the reason that is concerning is because we know that the brain continues developing into your 20s. And that has a significant impact on your brain's
mental development.
Exactly.
Exactly. Wow.
Makes a lot of sense.
And I just can't imagine someone who doesn't have a family doctor. Like there's no regular checkups, and I think this software is really making an impact, man.
Well, for sure. And let's think about it like this. We know that the younger a child is when they first use substances, the higher the risk of serious health consequences is down the road. And if adolescents, they sometimes don't have the decision-making abilities that they need to make smart decisions. And I think the biggest takeaway from that is they're sometimes incapable of understanding what the decisions that they make today, how they might impact them down the road. Right?
And how many schools are using this website?
So it's literally available to all schools.
Wow. In Ottawa,
there's key cities. So Ottawa, Toronto GTA, so Scarborough, Mississauga, Edmonton, and Calgary.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's amazing, man. And how is the reception with government, local? I know, like every province have their own geopolitical issues, and I will imagine place like Quebec, you'll have to climb a mountain explaining to people the importance of this.
For sure. Well, the cool thing about the platform itself is the ability for someone to access it in such a short period amount of time. I'm not getting involved in all that bureaucracy. I'm not getting involved in the privacy of healthcare. All I'm doing is providing a service to connect A with B at the fastest time possible.
Wow.
So it really helps not getting into sort of some of the privacy and restrictions that the healthcare systems have.
I'd like to know, like, what has been the feedback generally from the public about this, about DocConnect?
So it's definitely been a game changer.
Okay.
And the reason is you can literally change someone's life in less than a minute. One of the big drivers for me was, I remember when I was in high school, and everybody in high school has a meeting with a guidance counselor. They get an idea of who you are, what you're about, all those sort of things. One of the questions that they asked me was, do you have a family doctor? And I remember that. And at the time I did. A lot of kids didn't. But, and this is the big but here as well, this is where you sort of get those flags. It's a red flag. With that information, nothing was really done. And now there's the opportunity to fix that. So when someone tells you, no, I don't have a family doctor, they can
search,
help you out.
Where are you from?
There's no excuse.
Wow.
That's amazing. So it's very interesting to know that. So with DocConnect, you can literally search up a doctor in your area, just literally, and look up the list and pick up one, and with two-step process, you have a doctor attending to you.
And I really love how easy it is to use, man. It's just a click, DocConnect.co.com. .ca. You click there and straight away put a postal code and everything done.
Takes you right away.
That's great, man. And with the extent of the work you're doing in the community and all these projects, people are asking, where is this guy getting the money?
Sure. Stuff like this is really simple to fix, really simple to create. To do this particular project, I actually partnered with Algonquin College.
Wow.
And they provided me access to some of the most talented, I guess you can call them up-and-coming graduates. And they're fantastic.
Wow.
Working with them is a real game changer. And they all understand what they're working on and what it's working towards, right? Because at the end of the day, if we look at the purpose, modern science has essentially established that mental health and well-being is the result of complex interactions. And while we might not be able to control all those interactions, we have ways in sort of providing protections, barriers for people to keep them from going all the way down the road.
Yeah, man. Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, man. This is amazing. It can't. I'm sure you can't finish talking to this guy, but thank you so much, man, for accepting to talk to us again and having you in the studio. Thank you so much. And
I really do appreciate your time and being here. I guess even those listening to you have learned a lot from this.
There's one big key takeaway here too, and that's when you work in groups and you work together, you can achieve things at a faster rate than you would be able to do on your own.
Absolutely.
And that's the big takeaway. At the end of the day, working together towards common goals. That's how it's done.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, man. And
I just have one more thing. What's one key takeaway you would have for anyone who's trying to get involved in humanitarian work like yourself? Like, what would you say to anyone motivated but doesn't know how to go about it?
My biggest advice to somebody would be do right by people, and people will do right by you. And that means all people across all lines of difference. If you do right by people, they're always going to do right by you.
That's deep.
Wow.
Thank you
so much,
that.
my brother.
Yeah.
And for those watching the episode on YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe. Of course, share this episode with your friends and families.
Share, like, subscribe.
Oh yeah, don't forget to also drop a comment down there. And what you think we should include in the next episode. And for those listening on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast, thank you. You are the best.
Yeah, you're the best. Share, please tell someone about it. Recommend it to someone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, and see you next week. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Immigrant Experience, a program we hope will have an impact on the future of newcomer immigrants and Canada at large. We hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, make sure to subscribe, like, and share. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, hook up with us on Instagram at Anyo_2021. #the Immigrant Experience. See you guys next time.